go to the temple and they give you some food. So we would do it. Everyone, most people taking some sort of prasad like this. Yeah? So this is this is an example, like where people in this world are eating, but the spiritual person is also eating. The person in the material world might be eating nice food, and the devotee may also be eating nice food, but this devotee is eating food which is being offered to God first, so therefore it becomes spiritualized. And it's not just, there's many religious traditions which have similar sort of ideas. So in this way, this sense activity becomes connected to God. So it gets back to that, what we're reading at the beginning, that if you connect these activities of the senses to Vishnu, or to God, then you become invulnerable, in a sense, to this package of suffering which comes. So here we're going to talk a little bit more about, okay, so I've established that this suffering element is there in the world, so how do we get satisfaction? So it's saying, Yadricha lava santushto dvandavito vimatsara samasita asidocha vikravapina nevadyate. He who is satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled although performing actions. So santushto, that's actually the goal, is to be satisfied with what comes. There's a pastime there in the Mahabharata. It's like where Maharaj Yudhisthira is being quizzed, asking all these tricky questions to revive the other Pandavas. So there's this personality who's asking all these trick questions, and Maharaj Yudhisthira is just on a roll. He's getting it right every time. So anyway, he gets asked this question. He goes, "Who in this world is happy?" And Maharaj Yudhisthira replies, "Someone who is satisfied by eating shak, by eating spinach." The idea is that this green leafy vegetable, spinach, it grows everywhere. And if you can be satisfied by eating simple things, then you won't get caught, won't get waylaid, you won't get misdirected by everything else this world throws out at you. Actually, we're very fortunate we have Madhu Bendu here, who's a Bengali, and Bengalis know all different types of spinach. So if you have any further questions about getting satisfied in this way, you can answer. Sometimes it's funny, we go traveling to places like Rajasthan, and maybe we need something to eat, so we're just going around in the village areas and things like this. So we're picking all the spinach out of the fields because they're growing all sorts of different things in the paddocks, and the weeds are growing up. And so if you're fortunate to be traveling with a Bengali devotee, they can point out and they can say, "Oh, we can eat this one, we can eat that one, we can eat this one," like this. And the village people come out and they say, "Hey, why are you stealing the cow's food, Well, the spinach is growing in the paddocks." So there's it's kind of very subtle here. It's about gain which comes of its own accord. So that means, in the sense that we're not trying to endeavor to get happiness, but it's happiness that comes on its own accord. Like, for instance, I'm here today, and I'm happy to be here. I can say that my desire to come here wasn't sort of some desire to. I was sort of coming in the sense that I'd come here to try to serve Krishna in some way. And so in a couple of days, Krishna will take me somewhere else. So when I leave here, it's not like I'm going to be lamenting horribly as if something's being ripped away from me. So in this way, if we can go through life just understanding that Krishna's or God is taking me through on this life, on this journey, and things that I'm experiencing. And if I try to connect my services to God in some way, then that's the platform that you actually get free from it. Otherwise, if you sink down to the lower level of trying to enjoy it personally, this world, then you get entangled. So, in one sense, we're giving something Oh, and it's also it's not just Krishna. When we talk of Krishna, of course, everyone is connected to God. Everyone's part and parcel of God. So if we understand and purify our heart, we can understand Krishna's intentions or God's intentions, and we can understand other people's intentions too, and understand what their needs are. And it's not that we serve God at the expense of all other living entities. We serve God in an inclusive sense, that everyone else is also eternally connected to God. So there's a sense of charity in that. So we can give things to people, but sometimes there's, or often the case, there's a strong sense of return, that I must get something back. Like this giving to get. Like I want something, and so I may offer something. So, well, first off, there's the gross platform where we're just simply trying to get things, and this we established earlier is just causes suffering. So then, okay, we can come to the platform of charity. So, if we're giving, but we're still expecting something back, then that's still entangling, huh? So it's saying here, charity given out of duty without expectation of return at the proper time and place and to a worthy person is considered to be in the mode of goodness. So anupakarine, that's without this expectation of return. You know, there's a sense what they call priming the pump. You know, you've got the water pump. So to get the water pump pumping, you've got to put some water in. So this is, you've got some expectation there. So sometimes we can get caught in these things like, I gave you so much, you didn't give anything back to me, and then we cry foul. We say, what is this? And then our hearts get broken, and we lament. So when we're giving things to people, we shouldn't have an expectation that they're obliged to give me something back. It says out of duty. Like a classic example is like a mother and a child. Huh? This is perhaps the closest example we find to like unmotivated service in this world. So the mother has a young child. The young child's like kicking, fussing, all these sorts of things on the young child and the mother. But the mother is serving the child nicely. So she's not expecting anything back from the child like that. And, what can the young child give to him? So that's this is actually like a principle of dedication. We cannot live. It's impossible. Sometimes even if someone says, "Okay, I don't want to serve anyone. I don't want to give anything to anyone in this world," and what they end up doing is they end up buying a dog, and so then they serve the dog and give the dog thing here. Or they get some, they find something else to serve. This is this service nature. It's within us all, and our perfection of our life is to sort of bring this service to others in the sense that they're connected to Krishna, and bring this service mood to Krishna. So this takes some practice, It's so you can say, well, if we're giving something to Krishna, isn't this the same thing? We're giving to get. So what is Krishna? Krishna's saying here, if you give me something as you surrender to me, I will reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path. So if we're like 10% for Krishna, Krishna is like 10% for us. And as the path of bhakti basically means that we're trying to come to a point where we can perceive that Krishna is protecting us or maintaining us. Because actually in this world it's a very delicate balance, like tragedy can come, I remember one Muslim man was telling me this story from his tradition. He was talking about, like historically there was one Muslim king, and this fakir came, this Muslim yogi sort of guy, came before the king. And the yogi was very religious. He used to worship God. So the king asked the yogi. He said, like, why do you worship God? And the yogi replied, I worship God because by His mercy one gets life, and by His absence of mercy one loses it all, one gets death, you know. He can say by His mercy one can live, and by His lack of mercy life gets taken away. So the king said, well, that sounds like me, because I'm a king. By my mercy, if I give someone's mercy, I give them a life they couldn't believe, an amazing opulent life. And if I take away their mercy, it's just like death, you know. So the yogi was, you know, humble, didn't say anything. And that night, a little insect, about like a mosquito or something, went into the king's ear. And all the physicians came, and they couldn't, like, the mosquito, you know, it's right inside your ear. The physicians came, they couldn't remove the insect. And so the king couldn't sleep. And for days this is going on. Eventually the king went mad, he went crazy, and he died like this because an insect flew into his ear. So in this way, the protection that we think we can engineer for ourselves in this world is very unsteady, you know. You know, every day we read about, you know, kings being made into poor, or rich people being made into poor people, and poor people rising up to like very rich positions. So it's very unsteady world. So a devotee, they're surrendering to Krishna, surrendering to God, but what are they after? Are they just after, you know, oh, what a big building, I wish I could occupy it, you know, oh, what a powerful position, I wish I could have it. Why is it someone worshipping God? Is it just simply give to get? No? So, oh, what was that? So Krishna is saying here, what happens if you surrender him? He says, Hey Shamavanam Kapuratam, Aham Gyan Jam Pamaha Nashyam Yakva Babashto Yanadipena Vash. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So this is actually what the mercy of God is all about. It's about destroying the ignorance which promotes this attachment through rajas and tamas. This is what we're trying to do to perfect our lives. This is actually the platform of happiness. Because if you're affected by rajas and tamas, you could have big pockets with unlimited money, but you'll not be happy. You could have beautiful family, beautiful wife, but you'll not be happy if rajas and tamas are there. So many times, I don't know if it's so common in India, but definitely in Australia, like newspapers are forever like giving like news stories about suicides of the rich and famous, you know. So trying to get an opulent life in this world is not what religion's about. It's not what the path of bhakti is about. If this rajas and tamas is destroyed, that means the platform of unhappiness is destroyed, which leaves a platform of happiness. So this is kind of interesting here. It's Shriyam Dravya Maya Jagya. So this Dravya says the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, the Sanaprita, all sacrifices of word culminate in transcendental knowledge. So there's this thing of intention, our intention behind our activities. Like dravya. Dravya is like, you know, like if you're in the temple or somewhere, they're offering incense, they're offering some flour, chanting some mantra even sometimes. So you can be doing these things, but you know, what is on your mind, nobody knows. I mean, you can be offering incense, and it can be a very devotional mood, or you can be offering incense, and your mind can be totally blank, you can be thinking of anything. You know, it's all external. So this is what it's saying, Krishna is saying here in the Bhagavad Gita, that the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than mere sacrifice of material possessions. Sometimes you see this a lot. People come to a religious place of worship, and they maybe just like dump a whole lot of things. Like, here, take this charity. and then they disappear again, or sometimes they come to the temple like this, like this, try to like I've done some bad things and I'm here to like do the good so I can get back to doing the bad things, something like this. I don't know. So, but this is not first class. This will not give you the proper happiness. So it's saying the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than mere sacrifice in material possessions. So many of you, of course, will be going on to like your professional lives. Actually, the next 10 years or so of your life, that will actually determine what sort of adult you're going to be for the rest of your life. Like generally, after a person turns like 27 or 28, they're kind of like that for the rest of their life, even if they live to be 105. So this is what they call formative years for you all, So you have your whole lives ahead of you, So you can, you're coming from culture, coming from Indian culture. So a lot of these things, it says that taking birth in India is like punya, land of pure piety, in the sense that simply by taking birth in India, you learn so many things as a young child, Like just a simple thing of like, say, offering a lamp to the deity form, Like this is like, for a Western mind, this is like totally bewildering, Like why what's this? What's going on here? Like they don't know. Or even this like notion of paying obeisances, dandavat. Sometimes you can bring someone to Krishna consciousness in a Western country, and you say, okay, we're before the deity of the Lord here, so this is where we pay obeisances. And so they might go something like, go like this, and they say, no, they go like this, and they go, no, you've got to like bow down. So then they kind of do like I don't know, something like a stage performance bow or something. Go, no, you've got to bow down. So then they do like a Hanuman sort of thing like this. And they go, no, you've got to bow down. So then like this, and eventually you get the whole like dandavat, like down on the ground like this. And they say, oh, this path of bhakti is very difficult. They say. Even this whole notion, I remember when I was a young boy, we used to do like karate class, with some, Japanese martial art thing. So it was a standard thing that we would like bow before, we'd like fight, kick each other. So we'd bow like this, just something like this. And my sister was, sometimes brother and sister, they're always arguing, looking for some weakness to like start an argument. So my sister would say, oh, look at this, my brother, he's bowing down to someone. This is like, it was kind of like, no human should bow down to another human like this. It was kind of this was it famous John Wayne, who was like this cowboy sort of movie actor from a long time ago. John Wayne, he had this famous movie line, I don't bow down to anyone, because he was like the guys with the gun. He was like the cowboy, shoot people. So anyway, so there's this strong culture of within India that you learn just simply by taking birth here, So many, like in the Rath Yatra, we have like a big festival. Hands up if you've seen Rath Yatra, the Lord Jagannath on the cart. You might have seen on television or something if you haven't seen in person. I see it's always televised in India. They have like live footage and things from Orissa. So sometimes we do the Jagannath festival, Rath Yatra festival in Australia, and like in Rath Yatra you throw foodstuffs off from the Rath Yatra cart. It's connected to a pastime where Parvati said that even a dog on the street should be able to get the mercy prasad. So anyway, so it's kind of part of the festival. You're like throwing like prasad off the Rath Yatra cart. So if you try this in a Western country, sometimes they get hit by the prasad, and it's like they pick it up and they throw it back. So there's so many things simply taking birth in India that you automatically know, like this Bhagavad Gita, you automatically know. But there is like a philosophy behind it, There's a ritual behind it, of course, as well. I mean, I'm pretty sure we've all been to temples or places where, there's some panda there, big panda in the temple, and it looks like the only exercise he gets is chasing people around the temple to make sure they give a good donation or something. So, I mean, this is like a a ritualistic front, you know. Like behind this ritual, behind this sort of thing, there is like there's a philosophy. If you understand this philosophy, you can make your lives perfect, you know, and make your lives happy, you know. So anyway, just to wrap things up, basically I was talking about there's three things we can do in this world: exploitation, renunciation, and dedication. Huh? Exploitation and renunciation, they're basically in the same category. We exploit something, it doesn't work, we get sad, we get angry, then we think, I'll have nothing to do with it, and we renounce it. But actually it's not powerful. It's not mature renunciation. Mature renunciation is born out of a higher taste. So, and then there comes the third one, dedication. So we can dedicate things to others, but we can also dedicate in a mood of exploitation. So there's a sense that dedication can drag us back to the same sort of things. But if this dedication, if there's an element of our dedication which is towards God, then that is the transcendental platform. That's the platform of steady happiness. That's a platform that gives you a sense of happiness that actually has no parallel, has no equivalent in this world. That's the platform of a higher taste. So anyway, I've said pretty much anything I wanted to say about that subject. This is I sort of went through things a bit speedy, perhaps, but this philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, it's by understanding this philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, this is how people come to Krishna consciousness in a Western world, you know. I mean, like obviously, you know, we don't understand, you know, in the Western world, you don't understand Arati lamps, you don't understand Rath Yatra festivals, you don't understand Paying Dandavat. So we come through by understanding the philosophy, and this allows us to apply it. And by applying it, then you get the result. So anyway, is there any questions you'd like to ask about anything? Let's open it up.
So, Guruji, can you explain
three activities in this slideshow on renunciation? What is related to student renunciation as a student?
Well, I mean, obviously if a student renounces their studies, they're in for a lot of trouble. But the thing is like, you know, why are you studying? Why are you here? Basically, study is like an austerity. Krishna talks about austerity in the Bhagavad Gita. So, you know, why are you here to study? You're here so you can, you know, get some work, make some arrangement for your future life. So, you could say in a sense that's your duty, your dharma as a student, is to study like this. But often, because we're studying as students, as young people, then there's other things. I mean, it's very rare to find that student who's solely and wholly and 100% only just focused on their studies. Huh? If you are, you can raise your hand. So, there's other things that are going to influence you, you know. In one sense, they say like our greatest strength is also our greatest weakness. Our greatest strength is that by association, by associating with others, we can raise ourselves to a higher standard. But in the same sense, by associating with others who are on a lower platform, we can come to a lower standard. Huh? So someone who has bad habits, one of the worst things they can do is associate with other people who also have more bad habits, and in this way, the bad habits increase. But in the same sense, if you associate with someone who has good habits, then your good habits can, you know, increase like this. So in the sense of renunciation, often it's the case with students. They have some bad experience, some bad relationship or something, and, you know, hearts get broken and things like this, you know. So there's a power in renunciation in that you experience some reversal, but you think, okay, this isn't the end of my life. You know, I wanted something, it didn't work out, but I'm strong enough to overcome this. And if we lack that, we think, oh, that didn't happen. My world is finished. Apathy sets in, and from this platform, ignorance sets in, and then you cannot lift yourself out of it, So that's a sense where renunciation can be powerful for a student. And of course, if one has higher tastes already, then one is automatically on the level on a renounced platform. Like if you automatically have, if by in a higher experience you have no inclination, you have no desire to participate in a bad habit, then you don't even have to think twice about it. If we're already like fixed up on a higher platform, you don't have to think twice. You can just leave it away like this. So this is actually a mature level of renunciation. So thank you.
So Prabhuji, as in the student life, we are exposed to many of the other outside factors, and sometimes we tend to fall into some bad association, bad habits, like intoxication, smoking, these kind of things. Now, how can you shed a little bit more light on how spirituality, or what are the practical aspects of spirituality which will help us come out of these challenges, which will actually affect the students in a bad way, right? I mean, if they get too much addicted to smoking, intoxication, and all those things, which will eventually affect their careers and their practical life. So how they can improve themselves through this spiritual, bringing in the spiritual aspect, and how it will help them practically?
Well, if these like intoxication is very rampant in Australia, like just like how India, so many people are drinking chai. Just like this in Australia, so many people are drinking. In fact, in the 1980s, Australia had a prime minister, like topmost leader of the country. He was a Guinness Book champion record holder for drinking beer the fastest. So, I don't think India is ready to elect such a person for prime minister. Like, I don't think such a person could get elected in India like this. No. So there is a sense in India where it's a different culture. So coming, to leave that behind, first you have to see the fault of it. You have to see that, okay, this is not helpful. If you still think it's beneficial, or you're getting some taste from it, then it's very difficult to give it up. Like you see on the cigarette packets, like these horrific photographs of cancer, smoking causes cancer, and but still people are smoking. Actually, in Australia, they've put supposedly to fix the problem, supposedly. But anyway, they've raised the tax on cigarettes. So now to buy, like one cigarette costs in Australia like $2, which is like 100 rupees. Like one cigarette costs 100 rupees, and a packet costs like $32 or something, 35. So they've made it very expensive. But the result is that people just go around looking on the ground for cigarettes, like this, and the government's getting big pocket from the tax going in. So there's a problem with these things, that people get addicted to them. And when you're young, actually, you can sort of think, hey, I can bounce off this, I can bounce off that. And actually, when you're young, your mind is very flexible. But then as you get older, the mind solidifies, and then you find out you're addicted to these things. And that's very difficult. So that's a very difficult position to pull yourself out of. So in terms of spiritual life, the idea is that we're trying to develop a higher taste. First of all, there's like an understanding, okay, this is not good for me, I don't want to do it. There has to be some desire that, okay, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do these activities. And then you develop a higher taste through spiritual activities, like connecting things to God, like taking Krishna Prasadam, chanting Krishna's names or God's names, reading like scriptures and things like this. But you have to have this desire. You have to have this desire. And it's actually quite easy for people in India, because as I said, there's this universal sort of personality type in India. People always want to try to act to the best of their capacity. So if you take to these spiritual practices, Krishna can help you, you know. Actually, that's what Krishna is there. God is there in the heart, because He's with knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So according to our desire, God's ready to fulfill. Like if we want to smoke cigarettes, say Krishna will give us knowledge of, you know, where to get the cigarettes, whether it's on the ground or, you know, in the shop or whatever, and He'll give us you know, remembrance, you know, how to, you know, oh, I want to smoke a cigarette like this. And He'll also give forgetfulness as well. He'll make us like forget that you get cancer and you'll actually end your life very prematurely by smoking. So Krishna is there to fulfill our desires. But if we turn our face somehow the way towards Krishna, like turning to say, okay, please help me, then Krishna can help you. He can make you remember that, oh, this smoking is bad for my health. This will not actually help me. If I smoke like this, I'll get addicted. If I get addicted, and if I move to Australia, after I get my university degree, then I'll have to pay 100 rupees a cigarette or something, you know. So Krishna is there to give us knowledge. He comes within the heart, you know. This spiritual life is not so much like you know, you memorize so many exams we might get. You just simply memorize and then regurgitate to paper. It's not like that sort of exam. This spiritual life is dynamic. It depends on you individually and how you respond to God, you know, how you respond to Krishna. It's not like a dry intellectual process. It's dynamic. So it's a saying that like you take one step towards God, God will take 100 towards you. Like He's always ready to like round up things, you know. Look at the good qualities we have. We can do away with the bad, you know. So it depends on our sincerity, depends on what we want, you know. So according to our desires, things get, you know, we get what we deserve, sort of thing. Okay, so will we finish there, or?
Any other questions from the students?
I can say actually, when I was traveling on my bicycle, like from Chennai to Mayapur or Kolkata, and also other Nepal, Vrindavan. But I didn't actually, people constantly then say, oh, did you have any bad experience? You know, like must have been, you know, this problem, that problem. I can say actually I didn't have any bad experience. Actually, it's, many ways I feel safer riding a bicycle in India than I do in Australia. Because in Australia they've got such infrastructure for safety. People drive like, you know, a bit fast and carelessly. But in India people are a bit looking over their shoulder here and there. Anything can come out from anywhere. But also the people are very helpful, you know, like sometimes you'd end up in some village area. And of course, like English is the only language I can really sort of get by on. So somehow or other, through all these places, people were very helpful. And yeah, I didn't have like any bad experience. So there's you know, like more and more and more, I come to appreciate that there's a special good quality in India. I mean, it's your culture, you know, you can, I'm the outsider here. So I'm just trying to speak in a way to encourage you to take possession of it, you know. Like, so if you ever read like any of these scientific papers from America, they're all last names like Bhattacharya or Chakravarti or something. A lot of the intelligent people working overseas from like Indian origin. So if the same intelligence was sort of applied to like India's own culture, you know, you'd have something very wonderful to have. Because this is what the world doesn't have. This is what the world doesn't have. It doesn't have spiritual knowledge, you know. India has so much spiritual knowledge. But if people in India can appreciate it in the right frame of mind, then, you know, this gets back to the beginning. So this you know, Western scientist, he's like a top administrator of all the sciences, and he's saying to deal with these problems, you know, it's not science that's going to solve these problems. We need a spiritual and cultural transformation, and scientists don't know how to do it. So that's my suggestion. You know, it's here, right under your noses, here in India. You know. So if you want, you can take to this process and apply it in your lives. You know. Like so many people, you know, like working, getting married, having children, They're doing this process, you know. Like people like me, like wearing this, we're probably 0.05%, something like this, of the total, devotee community. Most people are married, most people have wives, most people have children. So, anyway, I was just speaking away to try to encourage you to take this a little seriously, you know. So, thank you very much.
So many times we will not be having that conviction that God does exist.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe that make us to get into some bad habits. Who cares? That attitude comes in. Let me live my life. So those things comes in, right? When we do not have that, nobody is observing me, nobody is going to punish me. Who is there to punish? So all these things comes in when we do not have strong conviction that God does exist.
Yeah.
So maybe some few points to inculcate in our daily routine, okay, to have that conviction, yes, God does exist. Maybe Prabhu, you can add some more points when Prabhu said.
Yeah, maybe Shamsundar Prabhu, would you like to say?
There are some few points for all of our benefits that yes, we have to improve the conviction that God does exist.
Well, to begin with, if we only understand God as a punisher, someone who punishes us, then this is not a very stable platform. Like, for instance, you know, like so many criminals are there in a society. Criminals already know that the justice system will punish them. Sometimes even very stupid criminals, you know, ones who can get caught very easily. They also know that they'll get punished, but still the criminal propensity is still there. They still do criminal acts, you know. So a lot of this understanding how God exists is understanding who is God in the first place, you know, like understanding the nature of what is God's, how does God view this world, what is our relationship, you know, what's our relationship with God, like this. So there's a statement that living entities, they're always following their own desire, anandamayo vyasa. So a living entity is pleasure-seeking by nature. So you look at the dog is happy being a dog, the monkey is happy being a monkey, human being is happy being a human being, an elephant is happy being an elephant. But somehow, some living entity gets to be the dog, some living entity gets to be the pig, some living entity gets to be the monkey, some living entity gets to be the elephant. So, a sense of punishment is not, you know, it's there, like they talk about the Chitragupta is there in the heart, and Chitragupta is writing everything down. Chitragupta is like a administrator of Yamaraj. Yamaraj, when the living entity leaves the body, they come before Yamaraj, and Chitragupta is there with like the movie show. You did this, you did this, you did this. And Yamaraj is there to say what happens next. So, and it's also there in various other sorts of religious traditions. You know, you do this, you go to hell, and punishment, and stuff like this. But if we understand that God is actually one quality of God, God is our well-wisher. God is our well-wisher. So actually God wants us to be happy. It's not like God is sort of nasty and sort of like throwing in miseries. Like I've tried to explain here about how we get miseries in this world. It's actually through our attitude to this world we get misery. So God is not engineering misery in this world, we are. But God's there to help us. So if we understand that God is my friend, God is my well-wisher, God is my protector, God is my maintainer, then this is actually a stronger platform for remembering God. If we just think that God is out to punish me, then we sort of, you know, you're like a criminal, then you think, well, how can I, you know, how can I dodge the bullet, you know, how can I avoid, how can I do what I, you know, it's like a poor platform for strong faith in God, thinking God's just out to punish me. So, of course, these things will be easier if we have like activities, if we have like activities that are spiritual or religious in nature. If we only, you know, only perhaps, you know, visit the temple on Janmashtami or something and, you know, do all this business and like, you know, dump 50 kilos of grain in the temple and then run away. Well, the idea is by constant sort of daily activities, this one alone will give us remembrance of Krishna, remembrance of God. And if we can remember God, remember Krishna, we have good association. Naturally, these activities to be sort of criminal are not even there. If you're obeying the law, you don't have to worry about the police. It's only, if you're breaking the law, then you have to worry about the police. So if we develop good habits, good association on a regular sort of daily basis or regular basis, then it can very easily remember. Very easily remember. And if you have desires that, I want to be a criminal, then that facility also exists in this world, according to our desires. So anyway, it's very. I remember there's one funny story. There's one. This is like from the 1970s. There's one in West Bengal, one politician. Anyway, his political platform was that there's no God. West Bengal, there's a certain political party there at the time, which was very prominent, very radical. And they, anyway, it's the nature of politics. Whatever. There's one politician and there's another politician, and they can't agree and they disagree like this. So it's the nature of politics. So anyway, this politician, he had this platform, there's no God. Anyway, he had this big political rally. He's there at the microphone, all these people before him. And of course, he had other things. He's talking about how he's going to improve the country or improve the state of West Bengal. Anyway, he had one person was very agitated, didn't like what he had to say for some reason or other, maybe also a bit crazy. He jumped in a truck and drove straight into him while he's giving the political rally. So he sees this big truck coming in and crashes through the assembly and crashes into him. And his last words was, "Hey Bhagavan!" as the truck crashed into him. So we may profess a certain disbelief of God or something, but when the situation gets tough, what will we be thinking then? Yeah. So we can always just try our best to find good activities. If we're acting good, we don't have to worry so much about feeling good. Remember God if we're acting good. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.